Good morning, legends. We are here at the prelims. It's going to be an absolutely cracking couple of battles, that's for sure. Let's see if the Panthers can come out and play like they did in that first game. If they can, that might be the one that could be a little bit of a blowout, but we'll see how that one plays out. It certainly is thought to be that way for both sides there. The Storm are paying $1.30, Panthers $1.24. $1.30 against the $3.60 Roosters is actually pretty crazy because if, in my opinion, the Roosters play anything like what they did in that game on the weekend, I think they can at least be in with a fight. And they have firepower, through the outside backs. They've got some gun forwards, some gun edges as well. There's plenty of things that they can do right to get a win over the Storm. And let's go through that now. Then we'll go through the Panthers Sharks and then the Finals Fantasy. But the link for Finals Fantasy, if you want that, is in the description. Jump in, check that one out if you are still playing. Good stuff. But the Storm, how do they win? The Storm win if they play like they have all year. It's going to be a very, very simple formula for the Storm. They've been really consistent, and that's something that I think will help them down the track. The big thing with the Storm, if we cast our eyes back and our thoughts back to a couple of years ago when they were on their massive winning streak, that came at a time where they were playing better, equal to the Panthers, and then they just unfortunately didn't play well enough in that game, and they got kicked out. And that's probably the only thing to worry about there, is that hanging over their heads. Because if that's not, I suppose with winning streaks as well, you're due for a loss at some point, and they've had the odd loss this year and has been separated enough. But some of these guys that they do have on their side have really come on in leaps and bounds this year and build on their consistency. Like, you're looking at guys like Warbrick as someone that's a bit fresher to the league, obviously, and he's had some problems at certain points with making errors, with having sort of a Barry Crocker. And over the last couple of months, he's really upped his game. You've given a couple of months of good footy to Jack Howarth, and he's really showing consistency each game and his ability to hold his own. Nick Meaney's defense has been a lot improved over the last bunch of weeks, along with that whole right-hand side, which is something they struggle with a little bit this year. Xavier Coates, he's looking as good as ever, which is nice. Munster's had a month or so now with unhampered by injury. Hughes he's having his best year, or close to, maybe first or second best year of his career. 3 years ago or so, he might say different, but incredible year from Hughes. And if we are to compare the halves right now to the halves for the Roosters, this is where they have their big advantage right now. If these two, Munster and Hughes, can dominate this game and control it, I think that they will outdo the Roosters just based off these two guys alone, because Munster's obviously one of the biggest game players in the game. And then Hughesy's having, an incredible season. Coming up against Keary, who has been okay this year. Solid at times, really good, bit average at other times. A couple of weeks ago wasn't too great, along with Sandon Smith, who is a rookie, basically. So that's the massive advantage that they have over the Roosters there. If you're getting into the forwards now, Nelson playing much better footy and is really going to be needed as that enforcer in this game coming up against Hargraves. A lot of teams don't have someone that can match Hargraves, and at least Storm can with Nelson in this one here. For Josh King, he's been absolutely incredible this year, putting him up against an absolute legend for Queensland in Lindsay Collins, and it's going to be a fun matchup. King has that little bit of attack in his game now. He has the offload, he has the try scoring ability, which has been nice at times for the Storm and has been helpful, but it's his just consistency through the middle that's been awesome. If we're looking at the edges, Satilli has been a little bit up and down, and you can see some nice consistency from Blore and Katoa on the other side. Crichton misses a bunch of tackles, but he is a game breaker along with Katoa. So you match those two up against each other. Blore, surprisingly enough, we wouldn't have said this a year or two ago, but doesn't have the flair that Satilli does, but also doesn't have the errors that Satilli does right now. So I think that they're going to compare well, and just depends on which Satilli turns up, because he's had some really incredible games in the last month, and then he still has that error in his game. And then Liero and Radley, they're going to match up fairly well. Also, Trent's had an incredible season, and Radley played great, obviously, with his scapular problem. We'll see if that ends up being okay for them. Okay, moving to the bench, you do have Christian Welch and Kamikamica, and you look at that and you go, they're starting caliber players, and they have been for years. But it's very hard to go past what you see on the other side with Spencer Leniu, with Terrell May, who have been two of the best players off the bench and the best forwards this year. And then you've got Nat Butcher, who has started for a lot of this year as well. And then Nafahu White has also started plenty as well. So a really, really good interchange. They don't have that guy that can move between positions, and I suppose that's where they're going to use Connor Watson. The other thing, they don't have Brandon Smith back there in the reserves at all either. So it'll be more the fact if they get an outside back injury early, they're going to have a little bit of trouble. Whereas the Storm guys there, they've got Alec McDonald who'll just stick through the middle there. But Tyron Wishart can go anywhere in that back seven, or they can move enough pieces for it to be a pretty normal transition for the Storm there. So I think with the Storm, they match up really well for the most part. I said most teams don't have someone to combat Hargreaves, and I think the Storm do. They have all the weapons that they need to go out and win this one. And as I said, I think it's going to be one with obviously Harry Grant, who I didn't end up even mentioning. I just skipped over him, went to the forwards. But Grant versus Watson. Watson's been playing great, but Grant has a little bit extra flair, and he's had an incredible last month. So after a bit of a slow season, a bit of a tough one on that front, in my opinion, I think Grant has really picked it up in the last month. And if he can play like he has been, getting out of dummy half, running a bit, if the Roosters allow that to happen a bit, I think that the Storm could be too good on that front. But Watson's been really important for the Roosters, obviously tackling plenty. But when he's running the footy, it's getting it quick out of dummy half, which is his specialty there, and then it gets the other boys off the back, on the back of him, in Manu, in Teddy, and that's where this is going to be won for the Roosters there. I think they're going to be able to hold their own through the forwards. They're going to lose a little bit in a kicking game and some flair from the halves, but it's their outside backs which are definitely stronger than that of the Storm. You got Pappenhausen, who hasn't been at his absolute best. Absolutely love him, but so hard after the injuries that he's had to get back to his best, and he's using his outside backs in Warbrick and in Coates to do a lot of that dirty work and coming back out of their territory. And that's the big difference with him and Tedesco at the moment, is Teddy's got the all-round game. Pap's got the awareness, the passing ability. He's got all of that at the moment. The running game isn't there as much as it was. I'm just casting my mind back to that final where he cut him open from their 30-40 line and went the length there. Absolutely incredible try. He just doesn't have that kind of game at the moment, which I hope he gets back to next year. But with the Roosters, Teddy's in absolutely incredible form, and he is definitely going to be a game breaker for him. You had Manu, who played so much better last week. He's running the footy well. He was going a little bit straighter as well, and helping their team get a bit of a roll on the back of Watson, which was good. But Dom Young, Tupou, Tupou's been there for a long time and in these big games, and he's going to have to step up and just be really safe and score his tries. Get that good running out of his own end, along with Dom Young. And for Young, it might be a little bit more of against an even better team in that of the Storm is to run a little bit straighter. He does tend to run sideways a lot, and teams like this just won't allow that to happen, and you'll lose momentum with that. The quicker you can get that play of the ball and get moving on the other side of it, the better it is for your side, and that's something that I think he tends to do. It's good for Supercoach and fantasy, but from a footy standpoint, not as good for the most part, unless you're just trying to get back to the middle and start your set there. But a lot of time it's that extra 2 to 3 steps that he goes across, and then he gets whacked then, and he doesn't make any meters, and it's the whole line set and everything like that. And then so is this going to be his last game in the NRL, along with Joseph Manu as well, going to French rugby. So it's going to be an awesome clash. I'm super excited for it, and plenty of storylines to come out of that one, that's for sure. Now, let's move to the Panthers and the Sharks. And as I said there, I think that if the Panthers play to their ability and anything like they did in Game 1, they will be too good, unfortunately, for Sharkies. They just have, at this stage, a better roster. This is going to be, they're pushing towards their fifth, well, they're definitely their fifth prelim, but pushing towards their fifth grand final in a row. And there's a reason for that. They're absolutely incredible. You even get, you got guys that are slightly newer to the side this year. In Alamotti, can really hold his own in the centres there. They've got Dylan Edwards, not in his tip-top shape in terms of his body, but is still really solid and has his moments like he did in that game a couple of weeks ago. I think Luai's playing better than ever, so that makes it tough, along with Cleary there. And if you're comparing the halves right now, it's Trindle and Hines. Trindle's in his best form. Hines is not. You've got Cleary and Luai coming back, and Cleary looked incredible last game. Luai's in the best form of his career, I think, this year, after helping New South Wales win Origin and what he's been able to do for Panthers with Nathan out. So I think that they have the clear advantage on that front there. We'll see how the Panthers have obviously been able to study what happened last week and the weeks prior with the Sharks and their halves, and how Trindle's been playing things. So that'll be a big one to see how they nullify Trindle. He's obviously got that lovely little touch kicking game, and Hines is working him out of their end. So we'll see how they nullify that in this week coming. For the outside backs, if we're comparing there, the Sharks outside backs are terrific, but Kennedy unfortunately doesn't compare to Edwards, and I think they compare really, really well on the other side. But you do have the absolute game breaker in Brian To'o, who just continues to do incredible things in really important games. So the back seven, if you're comparing the two Panthers versus Sharks, it is hard to compare, to be honest with you. They have just such an incredible team, even with the turnover on a year-to-year basis. The efforts that these guys can do running out of their own end, it's just better than that of the Sharks, and it just lays a platform for the sets going forward. And when you have the kicking game of Cleary and a little bit of Luai, obviously closer to the line especially, it is really hard to compete. That's where their bread's butter, and that's where they win games, is through that side of things, getting out of their own end, and then being able to use the defensive aptitude of Leota, of Fisher Harris, their leadership, their strength, their running game as well. It's just very, very tough to beat these guys. And that's where Toby Rudolph and Oregon Kaufusi, this will be the greatest test of their careers. Rudolph played really, really well last year. Kaufusi's had games this year where he's been awesome. And this is where they're going to be tested. If they can step up and match it, or get close to matching it with Leota and Fisher Harris, who are just the best in the game right now, then I think they have a chance. And if they don't match up with them, it just becomes way too hard. Mitch Kenny, with his line speed and his just ability to pick pull the right rein and get it to the right player, whether it's Luai or Cleary first off the ruck, he's a very, very important player. Blake Brayley has been incredible the last few months, and he needs to step up and play like that again for them to be a chance. And there's a lot of, they have to be perfect and whatever I'm saying here to give them a chance. But it's true. Panthers have been waiting for this time all year. You could see it in that first game, and you're going to see it here again on Saturday night. If we're looking at the back three there, we've got Nikora, Wilton, and McInnes, and been some of their best players all year. So this is a really strong point for them. If Nikora can run some good lines and kind of make it a little bit tough for the Panthers, I think that he could do something really special in this game. And then Wilton's been really solid defensively down that left-hand side, which is great. But you're comparing it to guys like Garner, who, as I was saying in a previous video, sort of every 3 to 4 weeks he comes in and has an absolute banger of a game. Liam Martin is one of the biggest big game players we know. And then Isaiah Yeo is Isaiah Yeo, the GOAT. He's absolutely incredible and getting better and better each and every week. And it's crazy to think that he is my age, only 29 years old. There you go. So, yeah, that's the big points there. And then moving to the interchange, pretty solid across the board from both sides, to be honest with you. The Sharks have plenty of punch in Talakai. Jack Williams, really solid. Hunt looked good last week. And then Hazleton is an absolute beast. And then looking to Panthers there, you've got guys like Lindsay Smith, who's been huge in certain games. Liam Henry, Eisenhuth have all been there. Well, not Henry as much, but Eisenhuth's been there for years now. And then Brad Schneider there for some cover, whereas Talakai can be that cover for the Sharkies. So going to be a super fun game. I'm just excited to watch both of them, to see the class from certain players. Can Trindle and Hines really step up for their side? What's Rudolph going to do? What are the outside backs going to do? Can Nikora absolutely come out and dominate with the try or something like that? And can the Panthers try and keep rolling? That's the big question there. So they're the two games, guys. Just quickly roll into the fantasy finals group there, and checked out the form below, guys, to get your responses in. I just popped it in there before I started the video. I've already got just the 9 responses, which is good. Remember, guys, full name and your address, same as week 1, same as week 2. It makes it super easy for me. If anything's slightly wrong, it'll come up with it doesn't attach your score to your name or to your email in the spreadsheet, so that makes it tough. But it's short and simple this week. Picking one hooker: Watson, Grant, Blake Brayley. That's gonna be a fun pick, that's for sure. I think most people will be selecting Watson or Grant, but Brayley's been close to that 60 mark as well, which is crazy. The Watson and Grant just dominating that number. Picking one mid, Liero, King, Fisher Harris, and Radley. I tried to go in sort of that mid tier, and to be honest, I probably personally think that Liero might be that guy. There could be a lot of tackles in there and running for him. Seems to be doing a lot of that dirty work for this side, and that's Josh King as well. From the same side, I just think Liero is a little bit better right now, and then Fisher Harris could have a big game. It depends how many minutes he has to play, but I think in this matchup, if it stays close, he'll be on there for more minutes. And then Radley as well could, have a try-scoring game, something like that in this one. For the edges, Eli Katoa, Brent Nikra, and Angus Crichton. A very, very tough selection, I think. And it's all going to be based on gut feel, I believe, as to who you think scores a try, to be fair. They've all got that try-scoring ability. That's going to be a fun pick. Want to keep it really simple in half, guys. Hughes or Cleary? Which one are you picking on that one? Picking one centre, we've got Manu, we've got Isaac Tungo, we've got Jesse Ramian, and we've got Nick Meaney. That's actually a tough one. I think that depending on which team you think plays best out of those guys, like Tungo on that right-hand side with Cleary could be the play this week. If Meaney picks up a try and a bunch of goals, that could be the play as well. So plenty of conjecture across that one. And then picking one wing fullback, you've got Teddy versus Edwards. That's the play this week. There wasn't anyone else that I thought was worthy enough to be in the Teddy Edwards kind of realm, and hopefully Edwards, with that bit of a rest, comes out a bit more fit and firing after that. And then just pick one emergency player. It's either Will Kennedy or it's Daniel Tupou. So sort of that 30-odd average guy. So there's no benefit if one of these guys are out and you decide to pick him and take one of that like you guys did in round one. That was good effort. I appreciate the efforts on that one. But there you go. That's the Finals Fantasy Week 3. Make sure you get your picks in before the game tomorrow night at 7:50. I'll change that in the settings. And have plenty of fun this week. It's going to be fun matchups Friday, Saturday night. And I hope you have a cracking weekend.